Before we get started, I got a sticker shout out to the Barbie Woodshop. Now Barbie's from Helsinki, Finland, and she looks just like the American Barbie. She's on Instagram, she does woodwork there. She recently got an anvil and has been doing ironwork. I'll leave a link to her Instagram presence in the doobly-doo below, and you can go take a look at what she's got going. I would send some stickers back to Barbie, except she didn't include a return address. Well friends, I'm a member of an artist collective in Rancho Cordova, and every year they have a contest called the 6x6 contest. And the objective is to make a 6x6 inch painting, is what most people do. I don't do painting, so what I did instead was a Rube Goldberg machine, and here it is up in the corner. It's pretty rudimentary, but this year I want to one-up the game and make a marble machine. So that's today's project. I'm going to need a motor for it, and I think this cassette player should do just fine for that. Alright, so there's the motor. Here I'm making a framework that everything will mount to. Okay, so now we'll cut that out on the bandsaw. One key to a marble machine is an elevator of some sort to get the marbles up to the top so they can flow down the track on gravity. Here I'm using Fusion 360 CAD modeling software to create a CAD model of the elevator wheel. So first I create a model of the disc I just cut, and then using the CAD software I draw a decagon, a 10-sided object, onto it. The points of the decagon become center points of circles I'll draw. Those circles will later become holes. Now the fact of the matter is I could use this CAD model to create a CNC cutting file that will allow me to make this on the CNC router. But the main reason I used the CAD modeling software was to get these two measurements: distance of the center of the hole from the edge and distance between centers of the hole. I'll need those measurements to mark where to drill. Now we know from the CAD model we want to come in 0.318 inches. And then we also know from the CAD model that we want to mark every 1.04 inches. Alright, now that gave me my marks. From this point I'll center punch and drill the holes into the elevator wheel, then we'll get on to some sort of strategy for making it actually move. Alright, now I've stripped the cassette deck's transmission down to its bare minimum. We've got the motor and a gear reduction, and then another gear reduction. Now we can put our pickup wheel on there, and that should give us a nice little rotation going on. And it's kind of hard to tell, but I've traced out the outline of my transmission because this is a little bit too thick. And here I'm using the Dremel Moto tool to thin out the foam PVC in the place where the transmission's going to sit. Okay, so I've glued my transmission into my little relief cutout with just a little bit of construction adhesive in case I need to take it back apart. On this side I've pressed the cassette drive cog into the middle of my wheel, and we'll just press that on. And we'll just give that a little test. And that is way too fast. Well, that thing's turning way too fast for my liking. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to install a pulse width modulation motor controller on it. What that does is delivers full voltage to the motor, but it changes the motor speed by slicing up the amount of time. So it'll give full voltage for 1 millisecond and then shut off for 9 milliseconds, and then give full voltage again for 1 millisecond. in that scenario, the motor would be slowed down by 90%. But we'll come back to that because I don't have the thing right now. I did order it, it's on the way. In the meantime, one thing we're going to need to do, the balls are going to roll in and be carried up to the top. And when they get to the top, they need to be ejected out of the hole. And the way we're going to do that is on the back side, I'm going to cut a groove, and then we'll put a little ejector pin behind the wheel. Now we don't need much of a groove, so I'm just going to go in the depth of this pointy burr and leave it at that. And I'll follow my initial line that I had scribed. I wasn't really happy with this groove, so I put a dowel in this piece of MDF. Now we'll come in here and get a much cleaner groove, I'm sure. Now I want to point out, I had the CAD model and I could have had the CNC router do this job, but I like to enable you folks by showing you that you don't need a CNC router. For that matter, this job could be done without power tools at all. Well, this is the PWM motor controller, and as you can see, it has a very short neck on the potentiometer. So I'm going to have to hollow out another section on the backboard, but we've already done that a little bit. We can just do it a little more. Alright, now I've got my battery holder. We'll just kind of mount that on there. A couple of screws. I tried 2 different PWM controllers and neither of them work, so I ordered new ones. These are supposed to work on 3 volts, but they don't. Here's my new PWM controller. Let's try it out, see if it works. One thing we're going to have to do is enlarge the cutout a little bit, because this one's wider than the old one. Okay, so take a look at this. We've got the same length of thread on the potentiometer, but they set the potentiometer back on the board half the length of that thread. And the only solution to that, luckily there's no printed circuit board there, and it looks like they've actually scored a line. I'm going to have to break the board off. I think I'll just go in there with the Dremel and a slitting saw and cut it. Okay, now I can use the full length of the threaded collar there. There, now that's some good speed control. There's plenty of guys making marble machines out there, but what they don't show you is how to do it. Now, one thing that's good to have is a nice piece of straight wire to begin with, but how do you get that?
So we clamp the wire into a vise and then clamp the other end of the wire onto a lever like I've done here with the vise grips.
Okay, now if we just stretch that a little bit. Okay. The part that's stretched is perfectly straight. Okay, now I think we'll get this thing mounted to its base plate, and we'll just reuse a couple of the screws that came with it. After some experimentation, I've come up with this. This is going to be my ball corral. This is what will feed the balls into the pickup wheel. Now we need to figure out the path this is going to take. And I think we'll come out and go that way, and then we'll loop around and go that way, and then spiral down, and then drop. Yeah. Alright, after quite a bit of trial and error, I came up with the first part of this. So, holding these wires in place, it's not the easiest thing. Now that's held in place, nice and sturdy. There we go. That's good. That's good. Anyway, my glue joint failed, so I had to take it back apart. The CA glue did not stick to the foam PVC or that little plastic hub there. This time I'm putting a backing behind that hub so I can apply some downward force onto it. We got our backing there, and we'll also put our spacers back. Okay. Now the question is, what kind of glue to use on that?
I decided to come in and rough up the surface to give the glue something to grab onto. And the kind of glue I found is called JB Weld Plastic Bonder, and that's not necessarily an endorsement of their product, but I have used JB Weld products for many, many years, and I find them to be pretty good usually. And I had also re-glued the transmission into the back of the main board there, and when I did that it dropped a little bit and caused a misalignment between the trough and the holes. So I'm coming in here and creating a little funnel chute where the balls can drop into the wheel still.
Now we need to hang our track on here, and that shouldn't be too much trouble. We'll just hang a couple of pieces of wire on there, give it some mounting perches. Now we need to come back here for a minute and take a look what's going on.
The alignment on this thing is really finicky.
Well, it's kind of buggy, as you can see, but I think I've invested all I'm willing to invest into this. So this will be available to bid on from June 1st to June 5th in the Micro Masterpieces show. It's an online auction to benefit Rancho Cordova Arts. You can choose from this or any of dozens of other 6x6 micro masterpieces created by local artists here in the Sacramento area. The entire effort is a benefit to the Rancho Cordova arts community. It's how we get our money to operate. And I know we'd appreciate your support. I'm happy to answer any questions in the doobly-doo below, so please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Click up here to see my last video. Click over here to see something of mine that YouTube thinks you'll like. Let's all get vaccinated so we can get back to normal. Get the Fauci ouchie, and have a good one.